I'd like to thank all of you for coming today, and the Waite Park Chamber of Commerce and Falcon National Bank for sponsoring this event. It is an honor to stand here today among so many people that are truly interested in our city and its future. Your everyday involvement in Waite Park is what makes this such a great community to live and work in. Each of you plays an important role in our community, whether you realize it or not. So thank you for all that you do for the Waite Park community. Along with each of you, we also have a dedicated city staff and council that I would like to thank and acknowledge. Our city council members include Frank Tyson, Mike Lindquist, Vic Schultz, and our newest member, Ken Schmidt. Department heads include Jim Elshire, Dave Bentrude, Bill Schlunz, John Nornberg, Carla Vernick, Keith Lindberg, and our city administrator, Shauna Johnson. We have been very fortunate to have a group of committed individuals that work well together to keep this city moving forward. I also wanted to acknowledge Council Member Chuck Schneider. We unfortunately lost Chuck this past December from cancer. Council Member Chuck Schneider served 13 years on the City Council and was a great asset to this community. As we begin 2019 and this year's State of the City's address, we would like to focus on celebrating our success, planning our future, and engaging our community. We worked hard in 2018 and have much to celebrate and more work ahead of us. Our city's future will be dependent on planning for our future and ensuring that we continue to engage our community along the way. And if you know me, that's a pretty long speech already. So as in past, I have dedicated, I have authorized my staff to do the rest of this. So now I'm going to introduce Shauna Johnson.
So one of the things that I am excited to talk about with you today, and it's something that I don't think that we always do enough of, and that is celebrating the success that we've had within this community. If you go ahead and you look at 2018, I really feel that we put Waite Park on the map. We've had a lot of things that we're very proud of and want to success. Here are just a few of those things, and I'll go ahead and highlight some of those. But our biggest project is our amphitheater project. We secured funding, $5 million in funding from the state. We also have the first fitness court, national fitness court in the state of Minnesota. And we also made the connection to the Lake Wobegon Trail. They're all exciting things that have put us on the map. In addition to that, here are some other things. As I mentioned, we've also upgraded fire equipment and hoses. We maintained our levee, which is something that we're proud of. We've maintained our levee in the city of Waite Park for the last 5 years. We also implemented franchise fee, and you may notice that on your Excel bill. The reason for that, or if you're in Stearns County, or Stearns Electric as well. And the reason for that is that those fees help us pay for our road improvements. And so those are some things that we have, and we're very pleased that we have a dedicated source of revenue that can assist us with that. We also created a human trafficking task force with the work of our police department in Stearns County. Our 10th Avenue water tower was repainted. Smiley is gone. Some of you I know. And there's a lot of people that I think had some attachment to that, but I think the new improved version of that as well is really just brings us into the next century. And then our improvements in Rivers Edge Park. With our pickleball courts, we have some baseball fields as well that we've added in there, the National Fitness Court, as well as the improvements to Lake Wobegon Trail are all things that we're very pleased to have had completed in this past year. I'd like to go on and just talk a little bit more in detail about our amphitheater project. This is one of the big significant projects for the area. And I also want to give a shout out to the Chamber of Commerce and Teresa Bonin as well. With the work that it took to get the legislative $5 million of bonding money, could not have been done without the efforts of the staff at the Chamber and Teresa, and as well as our community and our leaders here in Waite Park. It's a huge investment it, and we're very pleased about that. So in 2018, we got the funding, and we also started our first phase of that project. One of the things on that site is that there are a lot of rock and a lot of things that needed to be done. So we really took a lot and did a lot of that grading work and some of the utilities, and we're about 85% done with that piece now. And then the next thing that we did is we actually completed the design. And and as every good PowerPoint, we hope that it'll work, I've got a video that will show you what the proposed layout is of the facility. So this is just an overview of what this site will look like. It's a multi-use facility, park project, that'll seat 4,000 to 5,000 seats. It will be able to host a lot of different types of events. We are proposing to do 15 to 20 national acts. We do intend to work with a management company that will manage that on our behalf. And then we also plan on doing a lot of other community events out at this site as well. Nothing is off the table. And so it's very exciting to be a part of the planning stages of this. We'll show you then also there's another video, and these are available on YouTube if you are interested in looking at it. Just type in Waite Park Amphitheater, and you'll be able to see that. All right, now the next video can kind of show you what the layout of the facility will look like inside. So as you walk in, one of the things that we're really trying to do with the site is to be able to give you the rustic quarry feel that exists out on this site. You'll see what you're walking into is concession stands and restrooms. There's the box office off to the side. We're utilizing a lot of the granite and the rocks that are out there today, and really trying to highlight the beautiful site that it is. And you'll see the quarry is off to the left of this facility there. There's a lot of rooms. There's a lot of availability for renting the facility for things. We have a lot of space in the bowl area to be able to allow for seating, for standing areas, also for even potentially dinner types of theater events could possibly be out there as well. So we really tried to create and design a facility that would really have a lot of multi-purposes to it. Not a lot of fixed seating. That was one thing that we were encouraged by our management company, was to have more of that flexible seating spaces so that it allows us to be able to do a lot more things out in that facility. So here are just a few things that I wanted to highlight for you with this project. A lot of people have asked us about the cost of the facility. The construction cost of the facility is $10 million. $5 million of that came from the state bond that I had mentioned to you before that we were able to secure, that comes to the city in the form of a grant, so it's not something that we are required to pay back. And then we get an additional $5 million that the city has, and that comes from our regional sales tax. We collect a half-cent sales tax in the region, and that portion of it is ours. So the construction of the facility is not being constructed with property taxes. It's going to be funded with these types of funds as well. And as I mentioned, that it is a multi-use facility that we intend to use a lot of different things. I think the sky's the limit. So if you've got ideas and things that you'd like to see out there, I think we're open to those things. And then just to give you a little bit of an update on the timeline of that, as I mentioned, we're about 85% complete with phase 1 construction. The remaining pieces of that will be completed this spring. We're actually out for bid on phase 2, which is the actual, the meat of the entire site. And that, those bids will be opened up next week, February 28th. And the construction of that site will begin this spring. And then the estimation is that it'll be completed in, I think, May of 2020. So we're very excited. We're very excited to see what this will bring to our community. And with that, then, of course, we need to start looking at planning for our future. And with that, I'm going to turn it over now to John Nurnberg, our Community Development Director.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see everybody here. Was able to make it through the weather. As Shauna mentioned, I'm John Nurnberg. I think a lot of folks know me. I'm the Community Development Director. I've been with the city coming on 4 years. Today, just due to the weather and the fact we have a couple public works staff out, kind of conveniently, I've also upgraded myself to assistant shoveler at City Hall. I would offer to drive a plow truck, but thankfully they're much too smart for that. I'm just going to touch on some of the planning efforts that are underway for the year here. Some of our 2018 development highlights, I broke these down essentially into our three major areas. We do have some that fall kind of in middle ground civic type projects, but basically we have commercial civic type projects, residential and industrial projects we always like to highlight for the year. For the commercial and civic, probably the most visible that we're happy to see coming online are the hotels and event center in the former Tri-County Manufactured Home Park. That's been a great success to see the first hotel open up and hopefully the other hotel and event center to follow in the near future. But over the past year, that's really come together after being a vacant site for quite some time. Really exciting to see, and I suspect that'll spur additional redevelopment or development in that area as well. We also saw the conversion of the former Sammy's Pizza into the Crooked Pine Ale House. Significant expansion of St. Cloud, or as I like to call them, Waite Park Toyota, into the former Dunham space. We continue to have luck in working with big box spaces that tend to be historically difficult for a lot of communities, but we've been fortunate in working with our local folks in getting those spaces filled. We've had quite a few remodels and updates in businesses throughout town. A lot of the smaller type expansions you don't necessarily see, but they are quite vital to the well-being of the business community, and we continue to see those, and it just keeps building, really. On the civic side, we see the Quarry View Center alongside Discovery has been a great asset to that area, as well as the Stearns County Service Center expansion on the western side of town. That's going to really expand the county offerings out there, and that's part of what's driving the proposed roundabout in that area as well. On the residential side, we've seen the Windsor Green Villas. Perhaps a lot of folks don't know necessarily where those are, but those are immediately to the south of Dick's Sporting Goods Fresh Time there. It's a 60-some unit senior-oriented development that's been a hit from what I understand. Waite Park gravitates toward the senior population, and those are very popular units for those folks. We also had quite a bit of success in infilling our handful of remaining vacant parcels for residential, single-family, detached type homes, and we're looking forward to hopefully some additional development of those in the future, since we've had a number of nice parcels come online for sale in the past 6 months to a year or so, and we're starting to see a little bit of interest in those. I think the demand is there to support those whenever the time is right. We've also seen a mixed-use development that was recently approved by the City Council called Crossroad Lofts and Shops. That's on the north side of 3rd Street to the north of the Crossroads Mall, from which it derives its name. That's a small development, but I think it'll be a nice addition to that area. 2-story apartments on top, retail on the bottom. I think that'll be a nice little spark in that area as well, and hopefully we'll see some more similar options and development in the future. On the industrial side, we continue to have quite a bit of success in the way of new freight terminals, multiple new buildings, particularly in our Industries West area. A lot of folks may not necessarily have reason to go to that area every day, but that area is booming quite a bit with smaller scale industrial type uses. An interesting project that's industrial in nature to start with, but will hopefully transition into something else. We approved a mining project adjacent to Highway 15 and Granite View Road. That's going to pull quite a bit of material out of that ground over the next few years, and then the reclaimed land, once it's all done, will be more essentially shovel ready for permanent development out there. We've had some interest in that area, but there's quite a bit of granite in there that makes that not necessarily the easiest thing to do. So hopefully that's shaping up to be a win-win situation by which they can make that more shovel ready. They can pull that granite out and then use that for the I-94 project that's going to be coming in the next couple years. On our long-term planning side, we expect this to be a big year, and we're already well underway with that. We're starting towards updating our comprehensive plan. That's really our long-term guiding document that helps set the stage for where we see our future and how do we get there. Our current plan is dates back to 2005, so it's about the right time to look at updating that, and we're starting that process soon. On the zoning side, we've made a number of updates to ordinances just to kind of keep pace with current trends. We're going to be updating the zoning map as well. That's again, one of those items that needs to be periodically updated and maintained, just to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our community most appropriately. Transportation, we're going to be looking at considerations for the long-term Southwest Beltway and Ring Road that will work to more easily connect the area communities together. We're also starting to consider options for long-term potential improvements of 10th Avenue stretch. That's an area that gets bound up pretty easily, and we're just very early in the process of looking at options to perhaps mitigate that for the future. Lastly, looking at redevelopment and revitalization options as well, and this is always an ongoing process. It doesn't always attract a lot of attention, but it's something we work with behind the scenes pretty frequently. Looking at coordinating with property owners, real estate professionals, and developers on larger scale redevelopment efforts in selected targeted areas. Also looking at updating our financial assistance policy to target and prioritize areas most in need of assistance and screen potential requests a little bit more easily. We do get, as with any community, we get a lot of requests or interest in businesses coming from out of town. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, the first thing they'll do is put a hand out and say, "What do you give us?" That's not necessarily always the correct option. So we want to be able to screen those businesses and focus on those that are a little more homegrown and that we want to look at expanding or keeping in Waite Park. We're also looking at exploring options for programs to assist home and or business owners with needed improvements or storefront updates. There's a number of mechanisms we can do that with, and we're just right now looking at evaluating the ones that might be most viable or appropriate for us. Those are very early in that process, so it would take some time if we do move forward with those to see any of those rolled out. As I alluded to earlier, we continue to strive towards small business friendliness and support of homegrown businesses. We pride ourselves on supporting these folks starting and trying to keep businesses in Waite Park. We've had a number that have started or taken hold in Waite Park, and then they kind of grow within the community, and they like to stay here. We really strive as a staff towards making it easy to work with businesses. It's not always an easy process. It is intimidating. Especially for folks that are new to the business realm, but we try to make it as easy as we can for them, and our staff works very effectively together in addressing their needs and helping them get their businesses up and going and getting some roots planted. With that being said, I will turn it over.
Well, as John has been the designated shoveler today, I'm also designated to fill in as a speaker for Bill Schlunz, our Public Works Director, who is out actually plowing roads as we speak, so with his staff. And if this is a time that we need to be patient with those that are out there in our public works areas, this is the time to do it. And so the things that I just wanted to touch base with for you on this is some of the projects that we have on the horizon, street and alley improvements. And John mentioned it just briefly. One of the intersections that we've been paying close attention to and working with the county on is the intersection at 28th Avenue and County Road 138, just south of Mills Fleet. With the county's expansion out in that area, that intersection certainly creates some challenges. And so we've held a public informational meeting and looking at the possibility of a roundabout that would actually be potentially constructed next year. So that's one of the major projects on that. We're also looking at 2nd Street North and West Avenue. If any of you are familiar with where Bitson's is, lined up with Waite Avenue, that road Road going to the east is one that, or excuse me, to the west is one that we are looking at working with those property owners. It's very narrow in there, so there's a need to get some additional right-of-way, and it's in one piece of our property that really needs to be upgraded. And so that's something that those are the major projects that we're looking at for this year. Another area of focus is city facility planning. A few years ago, we constructed a new public works facility. We still have our old public works facility and are utilizing that. In addition, we have had some desire of the library. The Great River Regional Library is doing very well. They've outgrown their space. And then we've also wanted to look at our city hall needs as far as our departments. And so we'll be doing some planning this year and probably even into next year to kind of look at what spaces that we own and how are we needing to use that and how would we be moving forward in the future. Moving on to parks and trail improvements, Rivers Edge Park, as I mentioned before, has seen some upgrades with the fitness court and the Wobegon Trail. We also have some new ball diamonds that are being put in and constructed this year, along with a new bathroom facility and maintenance facility in Rivers Edge Park, and then another bathroom facility also in Community Park. We're also working on a grant right now with the Glacial Lakes Trail, which is the trail that comes in from actually the Wilmer area and connects into Rocori. The goal in here, and the nice, neat thing I think about our community is that the regional trails will all connect here in Waite Park. The glacial trails from the Wilmer area and then the Wobegon Trail. And so our goal is to look at how can we connect the glacial trail with the Wobegon Trail in the future. And then moving on, our utilities, we do have an additional water tower on 13th Avenue, which is just by the Martin Marietta property that we'll be looking at repainting this year. And staffing. Staffing is something, we've got 3 retirements that are planned for this year. And so as all of you in your own businesses look, we've got to look at ways that we can, how are we going to replace those? It gives us opportunities to look at ways that we might want to restructure some things as well. And look at how we might be able to continue our department needs. And then with that, then we'll also look at compensation. And I've spoke a lot about the amphitheater, but this next year is really going to be working on the construction phase of that, as well as the operations and the maintenance of that facility for years to come. So we're very excited about the projects that are going on. And one of the things that I think we're very proud of as we continue to move forward is we really try to stay engaged in our community. And I've got probably the best person here that can start off with that conversation, and that's our Chief Dave Bentrud to highlight some things that we're focusing on with that.
Just want to highlight a few things on the public safety law enforcement side of things. In 2018, we completed our first full year of body camera deployment. It's been a great tool for us to bring evidence into court that officers see and encounter on the street, and we will continue with that program. Also, we've made a lot of progress on the area of human trafficking. I spoke to this group in the past about that. We've seen this past year we have 2 investigators now full-time working on human trafficking issues, one investigator from Waite Park and one from St. Cloud Police Department. We also have a data analyst within the Stearns County Attorney's Office, and so we've been working on that. About 4 years ago, we recognized, I felt it was really important that, one, we allocate full-time investigative resources to the issue, and secondly, to come up with a safe house for women who are being trafficked. And we've accomplished that, too, with the Terabith Refuge, which is in Waite Park, and the City Council was very supportive of the idea of using an empty house that the city owned to allow that to be used by Terabith. The house is now finished. The lower level is done. It has a capacity for 8 to 9 women now to provide services. And, you know, occasionally I get asked the question, you know, really, Chief, why are we spending this kind of resources on what is a consensual kind of a situation? And the reality is that it's not. In 9 months of operation, we've identified 35 new victims of sex trafficking, 4 of which were juvenile. High percentage of them are being trafficked by somebody. In other words, somebody is profiting from their activity. We've arrested 14 traffickers in 9 months of full-time operation. That's how many we. Thank you. That's how many we arrested in the previous 4 years working part-time. So it's an issue, and we've accomplished some things there. You know, other things that we're working on, the adverse childhood experiences. You know, when I started my career, this job really was about law enforcement. I went bar fights and blow parties, and that's kind of what I did. But, you know, and I never thought I would be learning things about adverse childhood experiences, multidisciplinary teams, trauma-informed care. But that is the world that we're living in. We're not going to law enforcement ourselves out of some of these issues of trafficking, mental health issues. I'm very excited about what we're doing collaboratively with the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and very, very briefly, the idea that, you know, a young person that is either a victim or experiences or witnesses traumatic things, could be domestic violence or whatever the case might be, the higher the young person's ACEs score, the more likely they're going to have physical disabilities, mental health issues, or criminality. And if we can figure out a way to make referrals, so when officers like Justin go on a call, they see a young person that's experienced something traumatic, we can send that case to Paige. Paige is an employee with the mental health center. They can do some follow-up to try to connect that person and that family to services, to try to mitigate some of that trauma. And I think those are the kinds of things that we need to be doing today if we're going to be effective going forward. We're doing that with the multidisciplinary team. We sat down with St. Cloud Police Department and started looking at the people that we were transporting to the detox emergency room or to jail. Strong nexus to mental health issues. We had individuals that between the two agencies we were having contact with 10 to 15 times in a 90-day period of time. You know, what are we doing? Just revolving door kind of a thing. So what we've been doing now is really targeting the high utilizers, trying to get them referred to individuals and agencies that can help them. And we're starting to see our incarceration rates go down, and I think that's a direct contributing factor is the work that we're doing in a multidisciplinary level. And incarcerating people is very expensive, and I think we can save the taxpayer some dollars there. We recently entered into a partnership with the St. Cloud City Attorney's Office to prosecute, and that's going to have some advantages when it comes to the sex trafficking issue and some consistency within our ordinances, as the St. Cloud City Attorney represents Sartell now, Wade Park, St. Joseph, and obviously the city of St. Cloud. So having that consistency from an ordinance and prosecution standpoint, I think is a good thing. Community outreach remains a big part of our department. We try to work with senior citizens. We host a senior cookout every year. As Adam shared, we're trying to be involved with youth and supporting a youth soccer program, and I'd like to see that expand maybe to some basketball and trying to give some kids in our community some activities. We looking at a community service officer program, Coffee with a Cop, some of those things, Night to Unite, are all big parts of what we do. We are looking at creating a reserve officer program, primarily because of the amphitheater project. We need some civilian volunteers that are willing to serve as a volunteer reserve police officer. These positions would probably provide more of a customer service role at the amphitheater, crowd control maybe to a certain extent, traffic direction, first aid response possibly. And so we're going to be recruiting and looking to find individuals to serve in that role. Our Citizen Police Academy remains very popular. And as we look forward to the next year, you're going to start seeing things. The Vitals app, and again, very briefly, the Vitals app it's basically a little disc or a pod. For example, if you had an autistic child that was prone to wander away, if you signed up for the Vitals app, if an officer came within proximity of that autistic child, or maybe it's somebody with memory issues or whatever, an alert would go to that officer's phone that this is This is, you're close to somebody who needs services. For an autistic child, mom's voice could actually be recorded on and the officer could play that back to that autistic child so they could hear mom's voice. And I think it has a lot of potential for recovering people, de-escalating situations. I'm very excited about that technology coming available to us. Our reserve officer program, I mentioned that. And in closing, I just wanted to share a couple things that are concerns. I was asked to speak at the Granite Rotary the other day, and it was kind of more of a critical issues thing, and I kind of brought that into this meeting. A couple things that have really concerned me right now, and I think you should know as the business community, is the recruitment and retention of police officers. It's a problem across the country, really, and particularly within our state. We need good people to get into law enforcement, and we're seeing. When my first hire in Way Park, we had 250 applicants for one opening. This last go around, we had 25. Unless you think that Way Park is some kind of Weirdsville, we're not. It's epidemic all across the state. St. Cloud, everybody, our numbers are down. And I think part of that is I can't help but think that, one, when the economy is going better, jobs, there are more options for young people coming out of college. I get that. But I can't help but think that some of this has been the negative media coverage. Perhaps some of it has been warranted. But I have to submit that in many cases, I believe it's been unfair. We've had some of our political leaders, in my opinion, that have rushed to judgment in certain situations. That doesn't help. And so when young people are thinking about, why would I want to be a cop? We've got to change that narrative. We need good people coming into this job. The other issue is the legalization of recreational marijuana. Speaking personally, I am very, very concerned about that. And I would encourage you to research the issue. It's on a fast track in our legislature. And if it's medicinal stuff, if it helps control seizures or end-of-life issues or pain, I'm no problem with that. But recreational marijuana is going to be a problem. It's going to make our roads less safe. It's going to exacerbate the mental health issues that we're dealing with, particularly juvenile mental health issues. Look at Colorado. For every dollar they bring in tax revenue, they spend $4.50 on social costs. Look at Oregon. Look at traffic fatalities in Colorado. It's a net negative. So I would encourage you to research it. Talk to your legislators, because I am very concerned about that issue. I looked at the last 4 or 5 traffic fatalities we had in Wade Park. 4 of the 5, the striking driver had levels of THC in their system. So it's a very, very serious issue and something that you need to be talking to you need to educate yourself about, particularly if you're a parent, and talk to your legislators about it. I brought Justin along to kind of see what this thing is all about. Justin's our newest officer. Basically, Arlen Schimmerhorn, who was an officer with us for 30 years, retired in December. And it's always tough to see all that experience go, but we're very happy for Arlen as he enjoys his retirement. I'm sure many of you probably have seen him over the years. So we wish Arlen well, and we welcome Justin to our 8 departments. So thank you.
I'm Jim Elshire. I'm the fire chief Way Park. This will take a little bit of your time today. As Dave kind of had mentioned about the recruitment of police officers, the fire department has the same issue, and it's becoming a nationwide problem. Getting people to make the commitment to being a volunteer firefighter, it's quite a commitment. The training is getting to be more and more every year. The time away from your job, your main job, is getting to be more and more every year. So what I kind of look for from the business community is any support that you can give to an individual that is interested in being a firefighter would be much appreciated. And that comes in support of you have to allow your employees to be able to leave work for firefighting. Sometimes leave work for training. It's critical to the long-term viability of volunteer fire departments. And Wade Park is we're classified as a part-time paid-on-call fire department, which, still volunteer. But they do get some compensation for doing it. So if you have people that are interested in your business that would be interested in being a firefighter, please send them our way. Last year, the Way Park Fire Department responded to 195 calls for service. Many of these calls were nuisance-type calls, fire alarms, due to malicious-type activities. Several of them were due to poorly maintained fire alarm systems and malfunctions from that. So if you could, do us all a favor and make sure you get your fire systems serviced every year. It's a requirement, and it also helps take some of the burden off our firefighters. Looking ahead to this year, we're going to try to do a little better job of pre-planning for fires at your businesses. We're going to get a computer that we're going to have installed in our first responding apparatus, which will allow us the ability to find your addresses better, find fire hydrant locations, be able to map sewer and water in the event of a hazmat situation where we want to contain leaks. Also, we'll be able to put information notes in there where particular occupancies may have some people that are more vulnerable or possibly in a wheelchair or accessibility issues. So we'll be able to pinpoint notes in there and be able to go to them people much quicker. Staffing, as I mentioned, we are down right at this time 3 firefighters below our 30 personnel department we like to maintain. So again, if any help we can get from the business community, we'd appreciate. Fire prevention education. Every year we do an open house at the fire station. It'd be the week of October 9th, which is to the Great Chicago Fire. So that's the week that's always picked. So by all means, we'd love to see you there. We put on as much education as we can to hand out information, pamphlets, fire prevention, and other fire safety. So just training. Again, being a part-time firefighter, it does involve a lot of training. We train from anything from fire prevention all the way to rescue-type situations. In fact, this weekend, weather cooperating, we'll be doing an ice and water rescue training. Hopefully something that we never have to use, but the City Way Park has a lot of holding ponds, and there's concerns with kids and stuff falling in ponds, and that's another aspect of the things that we do for the City of Way Park. But that's all I really have. I appreciate everything businesses in Way Park do for the fire department. Our fundraising efforts have always been well received, and we appreciate your support.
All right, as you can see, 2019 will remain a year where we are dedicated to our community. The success we have enjoyed along the way is a result of the hard work and partnerships we have formed. It is a result of good work and intentions of many. This includes my partners in elected office, our great volunteers, our city department heads, officers, staff, and the public. Whether it is residents, business owners, or volunteers, I am extremely thankful to all those who have participated in the past and look forward to their continued efforts in the years to follow. We are a city that stays focused. We enjoy celebrating our success. We remain focused on planning for our future and committed to engaging our community. Thank you.